Guys, we're back again. Let me get this real quick. This is going to be a spicy meeting, you guys. Can almost guarantee it. And Little Miss Audit is on her way. I'm going to give it in a minute or two to... Actually, I'm going to try and get us hooked up so that way, just in case they start early. Just in case. Join in as Mo on this one. And then on this one, open link in new tab, launch meeting, join as a NT, open Zoom meetings. Gotta do this right. MCALESE. I have a feeling this meeting is going to be lit. Okay, back. Hey, Kathy. Hi, Kiara. Hey, Scientology up north. Hi, Amy. Absolutely. I was just going to give that to you. Whoop, that didn't work. I hate it when that happened. Let me give you the link. Copy link address. Here you be. Here is the link. I tried to send you my emails. Wrong link. Yeah, I got Snorri McSnorbutt sitting here. Tuesday, January 28th. Can you believe it? Today is the last week of the year. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And you're welcome, Miriam. Nice. Hey, Kirby's mom. I need to open up my last file that I had prepared. Let me get rid of that for a second. 11:20, 11:26, 12:10. I will in just a second, Kiara. It's almost all funding. It's almost all funding. It's all accepting funding request. LAPD 1217. I'm talking about the survey and about how I have requested a meeting and that is not the one that I wanted. Was 12/17 the last time? Was that really the last meeting? I think it was. Hey, Danny. I do not think so. I don't think she received an email. She's going live here in just a second. Yep, they said mid-February. They said mid-February for the and I just put out a community post thanking everybody. And Kara, if I left you off that list, I am so sorry. But here, let me scroll down for people that have been calling in. So on the thing is donation, 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 donation. It's all basically accepting donations. And I need to type this up real quick, you guys. I thought I had something typed up. Apparently, I didn't save it. I really hate it when I do that. I know I did. Dagnabbit. And then my thing keeps getting in the way. God darn it. I hate it when I do that. Okay, I've got 15 minutes to figure this out. I want to tell you about, and I can't see your chat, you guys. I don't see any donations from Hollywood Pal. Exactly. You did send you yours? Yeah, I've kind of got something in my mind, Peter. Excuse me, I have something caught in my throat. Audit is live, you guys. Okay, I have what I want to say. Let me save it before I screw it up. That keeps getting in my way. 128. That is whatever. Okay, I'm coming back to chat. I'm sorry. Yeah, I did email mine the last time, such as so did Peter. And we're not, I don't know that they were ignored because they may have read them behind the scenes. And they do read them behind the scenes and they're distributed to everyone. We just don't hear them when they're emailed in. They don't read them. But I wish I was able to vocalize it. I'd rather read what I've got going on. And let's go to Zoom because I want to be there when they start. Okay, Peter. Peter, you were spicy? I don't remember that. What the heck? My mind, I must be having a really bad memory day, that's for sure. Let me see. I'm looking, I'm looking, I'm looking. Sorry, I'm trying to find this. Nope, I don't see it. I think you were dreaming that you sent it to me, Peter. I don't see it. I absolutely do have a link. Hi, Adrian. Nisa, there's a link. And remember, it is random whether you get picked to speak or not. So you may or may not get a chance to verbalize your opinions and your comments. They take 45 minutes worth of comments and they go back and forth, supposedly. They say they do anyways, between in person and online, and it's 3 minutes each. Yep, our voice matters. Every voice matters. Every time, no matter what we talk about, your voice matters. And until we see those planners move, because they are symbolic of the whole corruption, when they get moved or made in not violating the law, then I'll stop. At least for public works. Let me put Little Miss Audits Live on my phone. That way I can see. Oh, yeah. My technology abilities sure get tasked doing all of this stuff. There's our Little Miss Audit. We don't have people. Oh, they're starting to come in. How are you doing today, Adrian? Oh, while we're waiting, I might as well finish that document. Oh, Laura's on audit. I don't know that we're kind of done with the frivolous lawsuits. Very nice. I'm glad. Okay, so Lara and Nora are both on audit. Nice. Okay, come on, start. You're not creative today? Maybe you need a glass of wine. That'll make you very, very creative, that's for sure. It's too early for wine 30 around here. Nice. Audit has a full house. Way to go, Audit. All right, the police chief is there. We're just waiting on them to start the video. Sorry, I'm so boring, you guys. We got this, you guys. Hey, Susan P. How are you today? Peter, resend them to me too, because I can't find them. Please? Uh-oh, goat puppets there. I don't want to switch over there because the minute I do, they'll have it up and running and I'll have to pop it back over. Uh-oh. Sick grandbabies. Never, that's not good. There we go.
Recording in progress. Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Suthers, Shields, Calanche, Garcia, and Sanchez Gordon are present, and we have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. The order of the speakers will be a speaker in the room will go first, then we will take a speaker watching today's meeting on Zoom. We'll alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom for a total of 45 minutes. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinion shall be deemed off topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentation and dialogue in real time, and provides feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. At this time, we'll move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief McDonald.
Morning, President Suthers, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Acting Inspector General Buckner, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Mr. Sibley. Today, I'll be discussing significant events from the previous 3 weeks, providing a crime update, and discussing our personnel strength. During the previous 3 weeks, we've had 2 officer-involved shootings within our Southwest area, and I'll discuss below. The first one on January 11th, 2025, about 11 a.m., Southwest patrol officers responded to a radio call of an assault with a deadly weapon stabbing at 915 West 23rd Street. Inside the multi-unit residential treatment facility, a suspect later identified as Brian Rolstad, a resident of the facility, stabbed a staff member in the face with a folding knife. As officers approached the location, they met with the victim and witnesses and attempted to ascertain Rolstad's location. In the interim, additional patrol units arrived and formed a tactical team to call out Rolstad. During the call out, Rolstad emerged from the location and began to advance on the team of officers armed with a knife. Officers gave commands for Rolstad to drop the knife. He did not comply, resulting in an officer discharging 4 rounds from a beanbag shotgun. The beanbag rounds were only momentarily effective, and Rolstad continued to advance on officers while still armed with the knife. As officers attempted to redeploy onto the sidewalk and street, an officer-involved shooting occurred, and Rolstad was struck in the chest by gunfire. He immediately dropped to the ground, and after a short period, an arrest team approached and took him into custody without further incident. The victim and Rolstad were transported to a local hospital. Rolstad was pronounced deceased by hospital staff. The victim was treated for a stab wound and discharged. A black 6-inch folding knife with an approximately 2.5-inch blade was located in the roadway where Rolstad collapsed, which was collected as evidence. Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. On January 20th, about 20:55 hours, a suspect later identified as Tiffany Shanae Rufus exited her residence and used a blunt object to break the front window of her apartment and the window of 2 adjacent apartments. The vandalism prompted multiple people, including Rufus's mother, to call 911. Additionally, Rufus's mother told Communications Division that Rufus suffered from mental illness. Southwest patrol officers responded to the apartment complex and were directed by the vandalism victims and Rufus's mother to apartment 24, where Rufus had returned to. Officers requested additional units to the location and formed a tactical team outside Rufus's apartment. Officers attempted to communicate with Rufus. However, she refused to comply with commands. Officers obtained an apartment key from Rufus's mother and used it to open the front door of the apartment. Rufus emerged at the threshold of the front door, armed with a metal stove grate, and swung it at officers. A taser was discharged, however, it was ineffective, and Rufus continued to swing the grate at officers, which resulted in an officer-involved shooting. Rufus fled to the bedroom of the apartment and shortly after surrendered to officers without further incident. Rufus was transported to a local hospital for taser puncture wounds to her right and left forearms. Rufus was subsequently cleared by medical staff and booked at 77th Regional Jail Section. No officers or other community members were injured during the incident. An approximately 20-inch black metal stove grate was recovered from the scene and booked as evidence. Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. Year to date, we've had 2 officer-involved shootings in comparison to last year, which was also 2, so we're even on that. Over the past 3 weeks, the city of Los Angeles has faced several devastating fires, including the Palisades, Hearst, Sunset, and Sepulveda fires. During this time, our department went on tactical alert to ensure we could quickly and effectively respond to these significant incidents. Our personnel were at the forefront, assisting with evacuations of residents and businesses to ensure everyone's safety. Once the evacuations were complete, officers worked to secure the perimeters, prevent unauthorized entry, and conduct crime suppression patrols to protect evacuated properties. In addition to this, our department participated in investigating the origins of these fires and assisted in the recovery of deceased individuals. We work closely with our partner agencies, including the Los Angeles World Airports Police, Port Police, California Highway Patrol, Los Angeles School Police, and the National Guard. Together, we focused on protecting lives and ensuring the safety of our communities. This has been a challenging time for everyone, especially for our own employees. 21 of our department members lost their homes in the Eaton and Palisades fires. Many more were evacuated from their homes, but still reported for duty to serve the city during this crisis. I'm incredibly proud of how our department has handled this major event and continue to support the recovery process. These fires have taken a significant toll on our resources and our people, but we remain committed to helping our community rebuild. It'll be a long road to recovery, but we're ready to do our part every step of the way. Even as our resources stretch by extraordinary duties, our department remains focused on addressing crime across the city. You may have noticed fencing recently placed within the Alvarado corridor near MacArthur Park. This is part of our effort to deter criminal street vending, which involves selling stolen goods and merchandise.
Excuse me, Chief.
Unfortunately, many of these
Chief,
vendors.
Excuse me, Chief. Can the woman in the audience please stop talking so we can have the chief give his report uninterrupted? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Chief, please continue.
Sure. You may have noticed fencing recently placed within the Alvarado corridor near MacArthur Park. This is part of our effort to deter criminal street vending, which involves selling stolen goods and merchandise to the community. Unfortunately, many of these vendors are linked to local street gangs. Along with stolen goods, they've also been found selling narcotics and engaging in other criminal activity. Recently, we've had a shooting in the area where 6 people were struck by gunfire, which included the suspect. Preliminary information suggests this incident may be gang-related. The suspect in this shooting has been charged with 5 counts of attempted murder. As a department, we're committed to finding innovative solutions to restore MacArthur Park as a safe and family-friendly space for citizens of Los Angeles to enjoy. We'll continue to address crime in the area and work to make it a place everyone can feel proud of. Over the past 4 weeks, the city of LA has seen an overall reduction in crime compared to the previous 4-week period. Combined persons and property crimes are down 17.7%. Specifically, persons crimes have decreased 1.8%, while property crimes saw a more significant decline of 21.6%. Year to date, the city has experienced 37.5% decrease in homicides compared to the same period in 2024, with 6 fewer homicides reported. Over the past 4 weeks, homicides are down 13.3% compared to the previous period, reflecting a positive trend in this critical area. Citywide, the year-to-date number of victims shot is down 32.6% compared to last year. Aggravated assaults decreased by 3.3% over the past 4 weeks compared to the prior period, and robberies increased 3.5% during the most recent 4 weeks. No notable patterns or trends that are directly attributed to this increase. Burglary saw a significant decline of 33.6% citywide. Residential burglaries were down by 37%, and non-residential burglaries decreased by 25%. Motor vehicle thefts decreased slightly, just under 1% over the past 4 weeks. On the personnel front, our personnel strength as of January 27th, sworn personnel, we're currently at 8,784. And civilian personnel staffing is 2,676. We still maintain a strength of 380 reserve officers. Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report to the Commission.
Thank you, Chief. And I'd just like to commend you and the department, the men and women that have been out there since our last meeting when the fire started that same day. And as we were notified later that day that the fires were 20 acres, and then less than a half hour later was 200 acres. And I know you've been down there every single day. People are working 12 hours on, 12 hours off. We really appreciate it. In spite of the fact that we have officers, 20 who've lost their homes and are still working. So again, just on behalf of the Commission, just like to send our support and condolence and prayers to the people that live in the city that have been victimized. It's going to be a long road back, but thank you for the hard work that you're doing. And so what I'd like to do now is go ahead and give Vice President Shields an opportunity for comment or questions.
Thank you, President Southers, and thank you, Chief, for the report. First, my heart goes out to all of the folks in the Eaton area and the Palisades and everywhere else people who've lost their homes due to these tragedies. And I want to commend both the fire department and the police department for working seamlessly together. I was very impressed by the mutual respect that I saw both at the command posts, at the emergency operations division, and really the department helping the fire department do their job safely by also evacuating people in a timely manner. And I know how much of a strain that was on the department resources. And I do think that there's so many parts of the department that really stepped up during this tragedy. And I just want to commend them from both, the officers on the ground to command staff, the Metropolitan Division, who made some significant arrests during that time, Force Investigation Division, Robbery Homicide, the Commission Investigation Division going out there, air support, all the employee resources groups that have really stepped up to help the impacted employees, all the nonprofit organizations that are not only helping first responders, but teachers and so many people who've been devastated and all the partner agencies. I think that, out of all the tragedy, the fact of everyone kind of coming together to help their fellow neighbor is the one thing that I think we can take out of this. And I'm imagine at a later date, you'll be able to kind of come back and tell us some lessons learned or some after action of like, we weren't we didn't know this was going to be happening even while we sat here on the commission day. And had you known, what would have been the things that could have better prepared all of us for this? Both working with the fire department, the equipment that the department has. So at some point, I'd like to hear a little bit of, I think a lot of things have gone right, but to the extent that there are ways that can be improved in case there's any other calamities that come to the city, I'd like to know what has been the lessons learned. And you also mentioned that, the department has been on a tactical alert. And can you talk a little bit about what that means, how that impacts the department and the city, and to the extent that you know, how much longer will the department be under a tactical alert?
Thank you, Commissioner. A tactical alert means that the department answers radio calls of significant importance. So a lot of the calls we would normally respond to, quality of life issues or lower level potentially crimes, we don't respond to those. There are other means of taking a report for those. So it allows us to be able to focus limited resources toward a specific problem, in this case, the fires, for the period we need to do that so that we can use our personnel as wisely as we can. That will go on for as long as we need to be able to continue to deploy to the fires. Once we're looking forward to being able to come off that status, because as soon as we do, then we can provide a greater level of service throughout the city to our residents.
Thank you. And having seen some of the devastation that's out there and knowing that the personnel of the department have been exposed to that and are helping, both with the collection of remains and conducting investigations and kind of the day in, day out continued exposure to that, is there any effort by the department to make sure that they have both all the resources they need to protect themselves physically and also mentally?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's something that we certainly are looking at. We had behavioral sciences services section out with us throughout this, looking out for our people's mental health, how they're dealing with this, particularly those who are out there after losing everything they own, are dealing with family issues as it relates to that. Others had houses that were severely damaged, and many of them still wanted to respond and play a role in helping others. So we have I think those issues being covered as well as we can for the moment. The long-term fallout from these type of events aren't realized right away. But we also, as far as wearing masks or doing the things, I would like to have seen a greater level of understanding as to what we're dealing with in that regard. We advise people about the particulate matter and the potential for injury from that. But when you went out there, you get a feel, you're running around, they're trying to evacuate people, and they're just looking at getting the job done, the mission accomplished, and not really thinking about themselves. And so, as you mentioned earlier, what would be a lesson learned? It would be to make a greater emphasis, I think, on how we respond. Do we have PPE gear available for all of our folks, and at what level? And that's something that we don't have answers for yet, but I'm hopeful in the biopsy of this whole incident down the road, we'll get a better handle on what could have been helpful as preventative measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kalanche?
Thank you, Chief. Two quick questions. One is dovetailing on what Commissioner Shields just brought up. Were there any impacts being on tactical alert and having resources focused on security and response to the areas that were impacted? Were there any impacts to tactical response or any other areas where we could have seen any increase in crime because we had so many dedicated services or resources to those impacted areas? And then I have a different question.
Yeah, certainly. Anytime we go on a tactical alert or department mobilization, we do see impacts felt elsewhere throughout the organization. And whether that's increased crime numbers or or a decrease in arrest numbers, those things are part of what happens. We have to be able to, as efficiently as we can, deploy our resources. But we know with limited resources to begin with, when you move them from one area to another, there is opportunity costs in the area that they will move from. And so that's why, as I mentioned, we're looking to get off tactical alert as soon as we possibly can and get back into the day-to-day business of providing police service.
Got it. So at this point, we don't have any data to show if there was an impact or not, but it's something I'm assuming that you would look into.
We'll look into it. Some of this is hard to quantify because you can't count what didn't happen or what the opportunity cost might have been. But I think we can anecdotally say that there is an impact felt whenever we move personnel from one area to another.
Got it. A separate question is related to, I saw in the news this morning that 2 officers were injured in a pursuit.
Right.
So just wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about that. And I know that we're, as a commission, we're really concerned about pursuit policies. But if you could talk about that and give us any status of the officers plus the individual that was not part of the chase that was also potentially hurt. I don't have a lot of information. So if you could provide that.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of information other than particularly on the other person you mentioned, on the 2 officers, they were treated and released. And so no serious injury on their part. And certainly we look very closely at every pursuit to be able to ensure that it's called off if that's what's appropriate, either by the responding the unit involved, secondary units, supervisors, or managers, watch commanders at the station who are monitoring the pursuit if it gets to be unsafe.
What happens when, what I'm assuming from what I heard on the news is that our patrol unit hit the individual, I guess the non-chased individual, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd have to get back with you more information on that. I've been running all morning myself.
I just wanted to, I guess the bigger question is what happens when we end up hitting somebody that wasn't involved in the chase, sorry.
I mean, what happens is we get them medical attention and then try as best we can to facilitate whatever their needs are. In most cases, as you can imagine, there will be some kind of civil action resulting from an incident like this.
President Southers, I guess my question is like, is there a policy? Maybe we can review to see in the pursuit policy. This is more like a commission thing where what is our policy when we end up potentially injuring a bystander that wasn't involved? I'm just curious as to like if the department has a policy.
They have policies for
to call it a
everything.
policy, we don't, it's not part of the way we do business. It's an inadvertent action based on what they're dealing with. It's essentially an accident. And so to have a policy to preclude an accident is not something.
No, I'm saying how we respond. Like, so I'm just curious as to like, because this happens quite a bit in our pursuits.
Yeah.
And so what is it that we do? Like, what are the steps? Do we just call and so it's something that I just kind of want to look into just to see, just so that I know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just for my own edification to know how we respond, what we do at the scene.
Yeah. There is an investigation done of anything like this, a very exhaustive investigation. Our risk management detectives and officers roll out there as well. They do their own investigation and then work with the city attorney to be able to help, make the person whole as best they can. But as I mentioned, oftentimes these end up in litigation and something happens down the road then to resolve the issue.
Okay. Thank you. That was it.
Commissioner, if I can, the Inspector General's office has already started an audit of vehicle pursuits that resulted in crashes, resulting in serious bodily injury or death. So that's already in process.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Chief, for the report. Just really wanted to say a few things about the folks impacted by the fires it's devastating and it's unfortunate. And I was out there quite a bit, whether it was delivering PPE or food or coffee or pastries, whatever we can get to folks at the different places. And this is going to be a long path to recovery, and really just ask our officers to have grace on the folks that were impacted and an understanding of the emotions and the phases of trauma and processing what those individuals are going through as we continue to work with folks trying to get in and out of their communities to move forward.
Right.
And again, that's a long-term thing. So hopefully we can figure out a way to potentially do some kind of training specific to this incident and the recovery, and include some of those trauma-informed practices and understanding so that our officers are better able to communicate and engage with the community who is going through this. Because it's one thing to perceive someone as being out of place, for the lack of a better word, but the reality is that they are going through a devastating loss and a significant loss. And so, as much as possible, if we can, try to create something so that there is that grace and understanding applied. And again, this isn't for the next 2 weeks, it's a long-term thing that we will have to ensure that we are holding our community in a safe space or in a safe manner as much as possible as we get through this. And with that, also just want to applaud the coordination between the department and all the other emergency responses. I was able to go to some of the different emergency operation centers and command posts, and really got to see how folks were communicating and how it ramped up really quick to get as many resources into town as possible. Not just the coordination with those departments that exist here, but neighboring departments. And so applaud the officers for that.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez Gordon.
Yes, good morning. Chief, I also echo
Can't hear her
many of the
mic.
sentiments. There you go. I also echo many of the sentiments of my colleagues and commissioners, and commend the police for their dedication to help the residents, our city, our county during this very catastrophic and disastrous period.
Ma'am, excuse me, Commissioner.
Sorry.
Ma'am, one person's going to speak at a time. If you can't be quiet, you're going to be removed from the room.
I also recognize,
Excuse me. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I also want to recognize and thank the dedicated members of the police department and staff, those 21 that also were affected personally by the fires and continued their service within our city.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Before we move on, we're going to be pulling consent agenda item 3M and closed session item 5A2 today. Commissioner Shields will be departing early, and we want those going to require a little more discussion. So we'll be hearing them at a later date. We'll now go on to the public comment period. Madam Secretary, please call us first speaker.
The first speaker is Jonathan Foster.
Hello, Jonathan Foster, staying ahead. So I talked about Sonia Massey, Takar Smith, and they were, by the way, no officer shoot me, because I'm going to hold my hands above my head, but don't take your gun out and shoot me. All these people were holding something over their head. Sonia Massey was holding a pot and she was shot in Ohio. But Takar Smith here had a knife over his head, but he was on his knees and they shot him. He could have got out of the way of the door and saved his life, but they didn't. Eric Rivera, after I've read the report many, many, many times, Eric Rivera held his green squirt gun above his head, showing the police department that it was a green squirt gun, and they got out without putting the car in park. They him, and then the car drove on him. They couldn't tell it was a green squirt gun. Then there's Raymond Hernandez. He was shot three different officers 3 times. He held the gun above his head, but he was holding it on the butt of the gun, standing behind his son. Not in this jurisdiction, but close around here, because this chief talks to all the chiefs. There were 3 teenagers on BMX bikes on the sidewalk. They got told to pull over when the cops said, put your hands up, and they were off the bikes. And the one kid, he did like this, and then when he tried to get his hat back on, 2 out of 3, 2 of them were dead. They were only teenagers. So holding something over your head is a reason for officers to shoot. That's what all these actions are reasonable. That's what they say. Okay. And reevaluate and assign what the conduct was to be. That needs to change. With 1 minute, not enough. You spend $130,000 a year on Jose Espinoza. That's $2 million in the last 16 years. How much cheaper would it have been to turn him over to ICE and have him out of here? Now, I wrote over here, it said check on Grisario Max, sober off vote was out of policy, but he said, and then there's a blank. Do you see that blank right here? I didn't write down what I was going to say was I need to throw the sober off his dead party before he's dead. One more.
Really the tragic death of a motorist who was killed by someone fleeing from law enforcement.
And what you should do is recommend to elected people that if you kill somebody fleeing from the police, that should be murder. And if you don't kill them, it should be attempted murder. No one said that.
Thank you.
Next we have Philip Tabby.
Good morning. All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. I want to remind this commission that this pledge should be said at every meeting. This is the United States of America constitutional republic, and we, the people, are in charge. No longer will we tolerate the incompetence of any body that does not represent the people the way they are supposed to. Eliminate DEI. If any of you are paying attention, DEI is dead on the federal level. Martin Luther King wanted a colorblind society, but instead we ended up with more racism with policies this commission approves. LAPD must return to meritocracy and hire and promote the best, and not based on or limited to color, gender, or creed. Eliminate the DEI department led by a do-nothing deputy chief. Yes, Ruby Flores is a disgrace to Operations Valley Bureau. Not once have I seen any communications for the public from our deputy chief. Instead, I see photos of do-nothing Ruby Flores promoting soft on crime Monica Rodriguez, who led the push to defund the LAPD. Never have I seen do-nothing Ruby talk about crime or address the public on crime-related issues. Remove Ruby immediately from OVB. Chief McDonald, I advise you to talk to your officers who work alongside her and John Shaw. You may learn a few troubling things that will convince you to make major changes. DEI must DIE in the LAPD. Another thing that must go is the illegal vaccine mandate. Chief, I have not seen you speak on this topic, and it's about time you do because I am holding you accountable, sir. If I don't see you fighting for your officers, I will consider you compromised like the rest of Los Angeles. Los Angeles's incompetent leadership. Chief, please read the letters sent by Voices for LAPD. I am one of the voices who collaborated on that letter. One of the many things LAPD lacks is communication. All meetings for the community must be published on the lapd.online or website. Fix your community relation offices. They do a poor job of communicating any information to the public. It seems the information is available, if only for those that are special and do not, and it's not for the entire community. Fire Liz Rhodes, move Captain Loose Hands Marco Lozano, return the blue line flag immediately. And commissioners, show up to every meeting. I'm shocked that you're all here today. God bless the LAPD.
The next speaker is Mr. Herman.
Watch your ears.
Right, Eroy? Good morning and happy anniversary, Eroy. I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. So, Mr. Eroy, we heard in the conversation of the chief, sir, as I am the new president, Donald Trump, on the conditions of Tiffany's vandalism, the Palisades fires for safety and protection and property by unauthorized, illegal, criminal activity. Fuck the police. That's not your job. That is your job. Your job is to protect, not get up there in front of the goddamn camera and tell us what you're doing, but do it. That's what we pay you to do. Thank you, Eroy. Give him that look. But it's not Jim's fault. Jim's not a fireman. Jim's a policeman, a master at his job. Not only with Long Beach Sheriff, but also former LAPD, and now he's the top dog. Versus that other dumb bitch who couldn't turn the valve on to put the water to give it to Miss Crawley to turn off the fire. Ain't that a motherfucker? That's a bitch. And then we go to the 20 homes in Eaton crisis. Well, goddamn, you niggers wanted all those people out of Altadena. Oh yeah, Earl, I'm talking about Eaton, I'm talking about Altadena. Get control of your people, bro. This is America. It's the First Amendment. I'm exercising the best to my ability, Earl. Now into my general public comment of non-agenda. Now that's offensive. Into the record, Brandon Burke versus Ohio, 395 USS 444, 1969. You know, yeah, I'm a dirty nigger. I speak out. I'm a dirty
This seems like off
motherfucking
topic
nigger.
to me,
And I
sir.
speak out of my mind about the facts and truth about America, how fucked up it is. Simplify, fucking faggots. That's
You're off
right.
topic. You're off
Knock
topic.
it off.
No,
Stay
I'm
on-
talking about Brandon versus
You are
Ohio.
off topic.
All right, then let me redirect that.
You're off topic.
When the Torrance police put the Nazi sign here,
You are off.
when they put that shit,
Step away from the podium. Step away from the podium. Your comment has been concluded. Your public comment has been concluded. Your public comment has been concluded. Step away from the podium. This is your first and last warning for disrupting the meeting. Sir, sit down. Madam Secretary, please call the next speaker.
Next, we have Mo.
Can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Thank you. Chief, Commissioners, OIG, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Today, I want to tell you about a young lady that was molested, raped, abused for years by her father. Scientology moved him out of the state and the country to get him away from being prosecuted. She was also part of the child labor factory and suffers tremendous emotional distress from the years of abuse. Her case is in your system already. Sad but true.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Sir, you've had your first and last warning. Get out of the room. You're being removed for giving the finger in the camera. Get up and get out now. Get up and get out now. I'm talking to your friend in front of you. Gentleman dressed as Batman, you are being removed from the room. Sir, leave the room. My apologies, ma'am. Please continue.
No worries. Thank you, sir. Her case is in your system. Sad but true. There's a recent survey showed survivors of the Scientology cult showed 84% of those that grew up in the cult have attempted suicide or have suicidal ideation. The crimes of child abuse, sexual abuse, and human trafficking are still happening today, behind the blue walls. Those exposing the crimes are having
Ma'am, I'm sorry I
cases.
have to interrupt you again. Put the puppet down. This is your first and last warning. Put the puppet down. Ma'am, please continue.
Thank you, sir. Some of these frivolous cases that are being brought by the cult has billions of tax-exempt dollars at their disposal to throw at the protesters. Manufacturing evidence is no problem for such a cash-rich cult. It really does feel like David and Goliath. 3 minutes just aren't enough time. 3 things I'd like to see from this comment. One, to have Janet Whelan or any Scientology representative be removed from the CPAB or an advisory position until the investigation is complete. Besides the criminal activity, they are registered lobbyists and don't belong on an advisory board. 2, all investigations against protesters relating to Scientology be paused due to the conflict of interest. And 3, I have requested a meeting in writing with you, Sir Mr. Chief, through your executive team to bring the evidence together as a claim. I would appreciate a response from your executive team to my letter. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
The next speaker, Andrew Grabner.
Starting off with the Chiefs report. The Chiefs report should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the Chiefs report exceeds 3 minutes, we should get the same amount of time that he took over that 3 minutes. And everyone should be able to speak regardless of how long he takes. So you all spent about I don't know. I guess you all consider yourselves to be part of the LAPD or something now. But we have but the LAPD spent all this time at the beginning of the fires taking up airspace that could have been used for, public information about evacuation sites, what's going on with the fires and such, to spend all this time talking about all these looters that's or supposedly going. That's what you were all doing. You were talking about looters, searching for looters, whatever. And then we get to the police commission meeting, and you openly admit that crime was way down over the last 2 weeks. Rates as much as like more than 30%. So crime was way down. So why were you spending all this time, all this time during city press conferences that could have been used to give information about the fires, information about evacuation sites, updates on what was going on, to give these whole spiels about looters when you knew that crime was down more than 30% in some areas? All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Let's see. So for the consent agenda, we have, let's see, we have more training. More training. There's gonna be more violent. We have an $11,000 ice machine. So I looked it up online. I could find ice machines for like, $200, you know. So why is your ice machine $11,000? So I mean, I guess this is a donation, which is another whole thing. But I mean, like, there's not even enough money to put out these fires and provide help because you got all the money. And here we are, we're buying $11,000 ice machines. I mean, like, let's learn to be a little bit more frugal. So maybe some of that money could go back to, putting out fires and such. How about you just buy some, bags of ice or, $11,000 for ice machines. It's unbelievable. $10,000 for the police concert band. Let's see. $47,000 for this AI thing. $11,000 for drone? I don't know what this is.
Thank you.
The next speaker, Zeno OT8.
Good morning, Chief. I'm the second person to turn out to submit my card today. Just let you know. First of all, I want to respond to the Commissioner Kalanche's question. I believe Commissioner Kalanche asked a really good question about the pursuit. And then, if you allow me, Chief, I recommend you to look at the Beverly Hills Police Department video. They
Sure,
have
guy.
a special pursuit devices where the police officers front bumper shooting a special devices to the rear bumper of the suspect's vehicle, and then so everybody can back off. So there will be no lateral damages during the pursuit. So I recommend you. But at the same time, LAPD is most under defunded, most defunded police department in the nation. So I probably don't know if you guys can afford it, but that's a really good device. You definitely should look into that. Plus, Commissioner Clanche, before, there's another thing she referenced about the drones. And then also, I recommend you to take a look at the Santa Monica drone program, the Beverly Hills drone program. Their watch commander, at any given time, 24/7, they can see all area within their city of the Beverly Hills because they have a drones control center. Within 1 minute, their captain, lieutenant, they have the eyes on the road. It's absolutely amazing. So we definitely need that kind of technology to fight the crime. So definitely, I recommend you to do that. Another thing about the viral video, I'm not really sure if you are aware, but I saw that viral video today. There's a Waymo driverless vehicle was being looted and attacked. I'm not sure if you see that on the breaking news. And then I'm a little bit concerned for two things. Number one, I'm concerned the LAPD will never catch those so-called teenagers, mobs, and then that will promote such behavior in the future as a domino effect. There's no consequence, there's no punishment. They will do more and more often. Number two is that I'm concerned about their skin color because I'm seeing that whenever a white people do something, they got arrested. But whenever a black people do something, they were being ignored. on the metro train, I have seen that. I don't understand why, but when white people attack a black, that's called a hate crime. But when a white attacked but when a black attacked a white, there was never talking about a hate crime. So I don't feel the law is applied to all colors the equal way, the same way. So I really wish we take a closer look of this those attack on the vehicle. Hopefully, I really wish we can have an investigation and then put anyone responsible into custody. That's my hope.
The next speaker, Audit LA.
Thank you. Good morning. I do want to say first that, my thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by the fires. My thanks to everyone that showed up to make a difference, fire, police, and the private citizens. Um, and I hope everyone in the city is restored. But I'm here to stay on topic with what I come here for, and that is also talking about Scientology. And I have somebody, a second gen survivor of Scientology, on my chat right now who would like to be able to get in and speak, but the queue doesn't always work that way. But somebody who survived a hellish growing up in that blue building and in their RPF, which is their version of like a correctional facility. Yes, it's like they have a jail in that building. Okay, and they do hold you without, you can't just come and go. But as much as we come and speak about this, it seems to fall on deaf ears because nobody wants to deal with it. And on some level, I get it. They're scary.
Go
I mean,
Audit.
I feel under threat by them. But I'm here to just ask, besides the meeting we've been asking for, I am asking you to remove them from any capacity to advise LAPD on your CPAPs. Also the bids, because that's what they do. They have such a heavy influence, sir, especially with Hollywood Division and Northeast Division, and it's growing with North Hollywood Division. It's a newer building, but it's so deep that I've even had an officer do something that I found intimidating. Because and he's considered one of the higher, like a Scientology police. They have such a connection, and I'm asking you to remove that. They're also lobbyists at this point. And so they are registered as lobbyists. And so what does a lobbyist, why would they be on a CPAB? CPAB is supposed to be for the community, not for paid lobbyists. And so I'm just asking you to really take a look at that. It's something important because I'm here to stand up for the second gens and anyone that is either trapped in Scientology at this point. A lot of the seniors are still there. And for anyone who's gotten out and who is damaged, serious, like they have a higher level of suicide rates, higher level of depression. It is a cult. It is not a religion as much as they would like it to be. They do have a 501c3, status. I grant that. But I am here to stand up. I'm here to put my reputation on the line. I'm here to put my safety on the line to stand up for the voiceless, the children who have been through this, the children who are still there, the massive amount of people who have cried out for help. There's hundreds of people that have begged for help for you to look into, the sexual assaults, the being held against their will, just different things. We're not talking about, okay, if you want to join a cult and give your money or whatever. I'm not talking about that. If consenting adults want to do what consenting adults do, that's different. But I'm talking about the children that were raised in this. And also there's seniors who are, at this point, that they can't leave because they take advantage of all their benefits. And I am asking for help with that. I'm going to be a voice for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker, George Bazzetti.
Go Puppet.
Yes, that's right. So I really support that expensive ice machine. I know how very, very important it is to have officers have ice. They love ice. They love to turn people into ice as well as put ice in their delicious beverages. And it's okay if a cop, puts a little vodka in there inside there with a little water. I'm not going to tell anybody if you drink on the job. I think it's okay to drink on the job, don't you? I think it's great. Yeah, it takes the edge off. Because, I know two of you commissioners are real shocked I'd say something like that. But when you put those ice cubes into that glass, and you kind of swirl it around, put a little booze in there. It'll help keep the edge off the
Quit
officer.
wasting our
After
frickin'
he gets
time,
done in the morning
Puppet.
beating his wife after breakfast, my eggs were cold. No, bitch, I told you I wanted them easy over, slap. Then they go down and take a little drink of booze and they get in the car and they're a little bit at ease. This will reduce officer involved shootings by as much as 74%, according to my statistics. So that's the reason for that. Good point. Yes. And of course, we get to the chief's fake report. Yes, I was driving down the 101 there, Chiefy boy. Do you know the homeless criminals are burning the 101 freeway going to downtown, starting at Tarzana? Fire. Then over by Vineland, another fire. Cahuenga, another fire. Yes. Oh, that's good. I appreciate you blocking my view of my pretty horns. So, of course, the real report is the homeless are out of control. They're burning the whole city down, Jim. What the fuck are you doing about it? What are you doing about this? And eventually, what'll happen is Jacoby and Myers, and by the way, this meeting is brought to you by Jacoby and Myers. Sue the city, it's about time. And also brought to you by Walker Vodka for your cane. And of course, you have to understand that I have the evidence of the arsons, I have the videos, but you don't give a shit, Jim. You're here to cover up their criminal behavior, aren't you? I told you not to take the job, but you don't listen to me, do you? And finally, come on, Calanche, step up. We had that nice lunch. You were going to come here and talk. You were going to talk to the Uncle Tom over here in the middle and stop throwing out Batman. Batman is a crime fighter. So he uses the N-word now and then. There's nothing wrong with that. If it is, then get rid of all the rap music. What would rap music be without our favorite word, nigger? It would be nowhere. So remember, don't be a criminal. And Jim, you can still resign and take the nice family and retire. Go ahead and do it.
The next speaker, Hamid Khan.
Donations are over $150,000, so that remains another way that money is being laundered to the LAPD, which brings me to this point about the DJI Mavic drone. And this is something that back about 10 years ago, when we released the drone report, we had mapped out that how mission creep works. And if people are not familiar with mission creep, it's a military concept, it's a military tactic where you start off with claiming something that you're going to operationalize, and then it expands. It expands over time. And now, where we are, crowd control, traffic monitoring, protest monitoring, surveillance, all of these things have become a regular function of drone operations. And
Right,
when you bring
Brian?
helicopters into that mix, so what do you have? I mean, just as any other settler colonial state is doing that, you have the local Air Force in motion. And we've seen that how that has impacted communities, particularly in South Central Los Angeles on the east side and various other communities, how helicopters have really messed up. Now we have these drones constantly buzzing, and that's what we're going to see. The other thing, Kalanchi, I'm surprised that you don't bring up is about this whole operation of LAPD vis-a-vis the Sanctuary City ordinance that was signed. Now, when you go back to LAPD's own documents and the amount of retainers and ICE retainers that they have gotten, like you look at the documents from 2021, you look at the documents from 2023, you look at their own reports. On one hand, the claim is that we will not report them to ICE. We will not honor ICE detainers. However, I mean, how are you going to get around when you pick somebody up and the fingerprints are immediately sent to the FBI? How are you going to get around when you have Vigilant Solutions and Flock, your contracts with license plate readers, which are like Ring cameras, where LAPD has a contract with Ring, and this is how they were identifying protesters during George Floyd uprising, particularly going after Black protesters. This is how they're identifying undocumented immigrants through the database, which is directly linked to the FBI and Homeland Security and DOJ as well. So for this to see this whole pulling wool over everybody's eyes, this bullshit about the fallacy of Sanctuary City, it is not. It is not. The LAPD is enforcing, and just the information sharing environment is real. Fusion centers are real. Law enforcement information agencies are real. LEIS, NCIC. We can go through the whole acronym suit. So I think it comes down to that it's your failing. The mass deportation, as it's taking place and as it's moving in Los Angeles, is on you, and you are responsible for the destruction and the separation of families and how people are being uprooted. So unless you stop these operations of license plate readers and information sharing and pull out of the fusion centers, and that may seem a lot, but unless you do that, you are very complicit in the mass deportation of how it's going to impact the immigrants.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Matios Kajane.
Hey, my name is Matias with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition. And just to emphasize, I say this every week, this board is a sham. It really is performance. Like, it's theater in so many ways. It's to maintain the legitimacy. And every now and then, there's an instance where they forget their lines or an episode that they've already done. And we witnessed that today when, Kalanche, you asked a question about collisions, LAPD collisions. And it was in the moment, like in the immediate context, like seemingly a prodding, important question. But then I remembered that this commission did a report on LAPD collisions just last year, where they did a whole kind of audit situation. And just to say, these are the things not involved, and you were on the commission when this happened. So even this question of policy regarding collisions is kind of nuts. But here's what you all have forgotten that you devoted a whole meeting to. Well, first off, not included, there was a collision in November in Sherman Oaks with LAPD, October in Westlake, August in Chinatown, May in South LA where an innocent driver was injured, August in Encino. And so these are all things not included in the report from April of 2023. And that report highlighted how since 2018, at least 4,203 pursuits took place since 2018. That's a 5-year span. Of those, 1,032 resulted in collisions that led to injury or death. So about a quarter, right? And then in 496 uninvolved people in these chases. So that's almost 500 were injured, 9 were killed, right? And then 462 people that you were trying to capture also ended up injured, with 5 of them dying. These are astronomical numbers. We're talking about, 4,000 over the span of 5 years. That's a collision. Someone do the math on that. But I think the only thing more astounding than that is you forgot. You forgot all this took place. Well, the question kind of erases all that context. And so it just goes to show that they're not really trying to do anything. LAPD still kind of taking, doing chases for organized retail theft. And you're shaking your head, but that's frankly what's happening right now. But, this is all a reality they're trying to hide. And the way they hide these realities is by maintaining their legitimacy through community policing programs. And one such program is on the agenda today. We have Project Blue, right, by the Community Safety Partnership Program. And what this is a foundation effectively that claims to address the crisis of communities caught in a cycle of poverty and crime. This is really kind of cruel in that the LAPD, through CSP is extracting resources that are perpetuating these cycles of poverty and crime, right? But what it does embody is this inherent paternalistic relationship that the LAPD has with our communities, right? The notion that it's not a lack of money that's giving us a hard time. We're just inherently bad. And what we need is the LAPD to step in and help us. Also, I see Case Guard on the agenda, AI redaction software, hiding information. It's already hard enough to get a public records request from this department. You all hide information. You sue us when we publish public information. And now you're trying to use AI.
The next speaker, please, Quinn Ball.
Yeah, Matias already talked about this, but on the agenda, there's a verbal presentation on a special counterinsurgent program called Project Blue. As Matias mentioned, Project Blue claims it's trying to, quote, combat the crisis of communities caught in a cycle of poverty, crime, and violence. We know their true goal is to make poverty a crime, to tighten police control and sanitize surveillance through PIG-sponsored programs and tutoring. In other words, Project Blue is yet another police program rooted in white supremacy, unabashedly attempting to erase police violence and forced trust. We see this too in their attempts to, quote, win hearts and minds of the people via their community policing efforts in Chinatown. You bastards don't even speak the fucking language of the communities you enact harm in. You needed $1,200 for translating devices? Bullshit. These instances of community policing demonstrate your true goals to infiltrate, to control, and to surveil, all the while using the guise of caring about the community. In fact, Jim and Errol, I know last November you popped at a football day with paternalistic attitudes and carceral logic staining the fields you walked on. You're not mentors, you're menaces. Time and again, you've renamed and rebranded your tactics of destruction and war as quote unquote less lethal. Like in the case of your bullshit trainings of over $2,000, we know your lethality is not due to a lack of training, but rather this donation will expand your arsenal and capabilities to enact deadly violence on Black and Brown communities. Last year, you had a less than 40% efficacy rate when using less lethals. Then what is even their fucking purpose? You named it, quote, pain compliance. And even in your own language, you admit it. Less lethal still means lethal. You literally publicly state the aim of subduing people with your launchers, chemical warfare, and rubber bullets is to inflict pain and fatalities. So is it any fucking surprise that in 2024, 9 times you unleashed less lethals to enact pain while simultaneously firing your guns? You killed 5 people. This practice reveals that the deployment of such weapons is not a measure of restraint, but a highly calculated reinforcement of state violence and domination. Your trainings are not to reduce fatality. You train to learn how to inflict pain, and you train to learn how to murder. And your launchers, your community policing, they demonstrate you will use any tactics, any rhetoric, and any methods to murder. No matter how many football and soccer team pictures you have on your website, this commission's futile purpose is to sanitize the highly calculated state violence and domination you and your little piglets continue to wage. I yield the rest of my time. Fuck you.
The next speaker, please. Grace.
Hello. First I'll start off with talking about item 4C, the USC After Action Report, especially since I am a USC student, but have been punished in the past year because of the university's commitment to violence against its students and communities. And so these after action reports, as you've mentioned already, they're fictitious accounts of violent events used to sanitize LAPD's actions and limit the department's liabilities. In this case specifically, LAPD is minimizing the violence enacted against students, protesters, and
Sorry,
condemning the genocide.
McSnorry Pants is
We're
snoring.
condemning the genocide of Palestinians. And so specifically, I just want to note that the
Excuse me, ma'am. Sorry. Sir, would you take your conversation outside and let the woman at the podium have her 3 minutes? Yes, sir. You in a baseball cap. Well, that's not a me problem. I'm sorry, ma'am. Go ahead.
um say that the report notes that there was only one baton push and there's only one use of a less than lethal weapon, but this is just false. If you see any of the videos that were taken by media who were actually blocked off by LAPD from entering the campus, which I'm pretty sure is illegal, there were an extreme amount of violence used by both LAPD and DPS. And if you took any of the time to actually talk to community members who experience this violence, you would know that these after action reports are just complete lies. If anything, it should have also mentioned that a USC student is filing a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles for being hospitalized after having the LAPD deploy a less than lethal weapon on them. They're still experiencing trauma to this day. Even entering campus is difficult for them, yet nevertheless, they still organize against police violence, against state violence, and against the genocide of Palestinians. And this report, it really serves a clear purpose, a clear and nefarious purpose, that they shift the blame onto the victims of state violence and that it justifies the department's repression of dissent. And it also provides a blueprint for escalating and normalizing harm against communities. And it's really interesting how the LAPD and DPS and the University of Southern California has posed its own community members as threats to the safety of the quote unquote campus, when we literally have a Department of Homeland Security center on campus surveilling students, surveilling community members, sending that information to the FBI, and exacerbating all of the violence that is actually real and material and is causing harm to our communities. Yet that's where the money is going to from LAPD and also to these sorts of research quote unquote centers that are supposed to look into counterterrorism, violent extremism, et cetera, which is just like a smoke fog for, yep, just a smoke fog for racism, anti-Muslim, and anti. It's Islamophobic, basically. And it's very clearly Islamophobic when you say that the factors for extremism is certain religions, wearing certain religious garments, having certain political beliefs, etc., etc. It's very clear that you're not even trying to hide that these programs are meant to target a certain people. And we've seen that historically that.
Thank you.
The next speaker, Jamie Cusick.
How horrible to be back in this godforsaken room with its lies spread all over the walls. How horrible to be in the same room for the first time with this murdering pig. And how enraging to yet again read an agenda full of funding for violence. Not that I expected anything different, but when I was glancing through these items, I did make the assumption that this donation for the Emergency Services Division was in some way related to the fires, LA's latest emergency. To be clear, not a natural disaster, but an event manufactured by white supremacist capitalist forces. I assume that, and obviously this is not a good faith assumption of any kind, I assume that under the guise of the fear and scarcity mindset that Mayor Bass, City Council, and all of you fuckers have been trying and frankly failing to inculcate with all this ludicrous bullshit rhetoric about looting and arsonists, I assume that LAPD was taking the opportunity to get more specialized emergency equipment or technology. But as Andrew noted, actually the Emergency Services Division is getting $11,000 for an office ice machine for use, not for use during emergencies, but for use in scheduled and air-conditioned meetings. Thousands and thousands of people have lost their homes, and you fuckers are about to accept money for LAPD to get concert band related expenses and $11,000 ice. These items really indicate that this is all business as usual. You fuckers don't even feel the need to pretend there's an emergency. This is exactly the type of bullshit that LAPD was up to before the fires as well as after. LA was a fascist and effectively apartheid state before this particular most recent emergency, and it remains one now. Before the fires broke out this month, there were already thousands and thousands of Angelenos who didn't have homes. Those folks still don't have homes. And this department's relentless squandering of money is what has always effectively caused houselessness in this city, and it's what in huge part caused the fucking fires. There is almost endless abundance in this city and county. We had the resources to mitigate, if not avoid this catastrophe entirely, and this department was enabled by you motherfuckers to steal those resources from us in allegiance to this department's campaign of racial terror and death. I'll yield the rest of my time.
And the next speaker, Jason Reedy.
Okay, so during Old McDonald's swearing in as chief, some of the first lies he told was that the LAPD's focus under his leadership would be transparency, accountability, and a commitment to every voice in every neighborhood. Now let's touch on that transparency piece real quick. How does the LAPD fare when releasing basic information? Well, we don't have to look any further than the fact that it took LAPD 24 days to release the names of the pigs who killed Benjamin Bradley on December 29th. We are now 17 days removed from your pigs killing Brian Rolstad, who you mentioned this morning, and the LAPD still hasn't identified who killed him. And we are 8 days removed from your pigs shooting at Tiffany Rufus, and you still haven't identified the shooters. I'll add that all three of these community members that you mentioned, not suspects, were in the midst of a mental health crisis. Now, the LAPD, who harps on the regular about how transparent they are, consistently delays releasing the name of any pig that shoots or kills a community member. 3 days is the policy, so why isn't that policy being enforced? To this commission who claims to be my voice in police affairs, why is it that I have to say something in order for these names to be released? Now let's talk about the accountability piece. We'll stick with the theme of a pig's name and serial number. In November 2023, a senior lead officer, Jorge Zambrano, said hello as I walked by shortly after leaving this clownish commission. I responded with a fuck you pigs, and his fellow senior lead officer, Elizabeth Southern, said, don't listen to him, he's on drugs. When I asked for the names and serial numbers, she threatened to call DCFS on me. This commission demanded an investigation into the matter. So now we are 14 months removed from that. What's the status? What happened? What were the findings? Rasha, you came up to me in the hallway after that, after I gave my comment that day expressing fake sympathy about it. But have you followed up once on that investigation? Supposedly it was adjudicated in September. Now, in an update on the other investigation you guys have going, because a detective from this department rear-ended the mother of this beautiful child, and the OIG informed me that my allegations against Southern were unfounded, despite a plethora of video evidence showing exactly what happened. Now, you'd imagine since I was the subject of this investigation that I'd be privy to its findings, but no. So just send me the fucking adjudication letter, Jimmy Cracker Corn. Now, before I forget, how pathetic is it that Errol Southers has this fake MLK quote in his email signature for USC? Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. That's a fake quote that this educator has in his signature. You should be using this real MLK quote. We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. Now, wondering if you found in that POW program that led to the molestation of over 200 children will be included in your autobiography, My Life Inside the Castle Walls. Will Sarah Bell also ghostwrite that as she does any statement you give as the President's Commission? Now, Teresa, how awkward it must be for you, as someone that was once undocumented, sit along Jim McDonald, who would have targeted your family. 5 years as a federal public defender representing mostly bank robbers, and now you're primed to defend the biggest bank robbers around the LAPD. Now, whether it be in Watts or Bunker Hill, I know you've seen the LAPD unleash its violence in our community. So remember, you aren't here to rubber stamp.
Thank you. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment allotted time, Mr. President.
The 45 minutes of public comment has ended. We will move on to the consent agenda items.
Well, that freaking sucks.
You are disrupting the meeting. You're disrupting the meeting. Madam Secretary, who is the next speaker?
The next speaker is Megan.
Oh, they're letting it go on.
Why do we need to listen to McDonald read the Chiefs report in a monotone? He can send it as an email, and then we can use that time for more community comments. And I just want to point out the only people who received reprimands in this meeting for speaking out of turn were Black women, even though I was and Hamid was. And that's pretty consistent after every meeting. They are always fucking picking on Camille, and I'm sick of it. You had to hear 3 slurs out of that guy before warning him at all. We give everything to policing in this city. $8 million a day to LAPD, $4 billion to the LA County Sheriffs, $1 billion to the probation system. We have airport police, we have port police, school police, park ranger police, campus police. We are 10 toes down on crime and punishment, and what the fuck do we get for all of that as the city burns down around us? I mean, wouldn't it have been nice to have more helicopters which can scoop water and dump it on the fire? But no, we have a huge fucking fleet of LAPD helicopters which can't do shit. So many reports of people saying they didn't see any firemen in their neighborhood until days later. It would have been real nice to have some more firemen. But hey, at least you arrested 19 people who were trying to sneak into the evacuation zone and assuming they were there to steal shit. What were the demographics of those people? It's such an obvious pattern. There's never been a natural disaster where the police and media didn't label Black people as looters and thieves. Yeah, no chance that they were there trying to retrieve their precious possessions for their family members or see if their house was still standing. So good fucking job making 19 arrests while the LA community, while the activists you're so fond of sneering at got out there and fed people and clothed them and replaced their possessions and provided masks and educated them about the risks of the air that they're breathing. What would it look like if we invested $8 million a day into making every home in this city safe for earthquakes and fires? Or simply just making sure that everybody has a home? I mean, wouldn't that be better than paying a ton of money to a bunch of narcissistic bullies with anger problems and arming them to the teeth? Wouldn't that be better than paying a ton of money to a police department that's the deadliest in the fucking country? Shoots more of its citizens than any other police department in the country. This department is awash in controversy, grift, and mismanagement, notorious the world over for its cruelty, its viciousness, its sizable numbers of white supremacists, child molesters, and domestic abusers contained within your ranks. You honestly must be so proud. Yeah, and at least y'all help put people in prison so we can force them to fight fires for less than $1 a day. Incredible, incredible work. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Andrew? Is there an Andrew?
Morning, y'all. I've spent the better part of 2 decades working as a high school teacher alongside youth of color whose communities have been ravaged by the violence of policing. So I'm here today to speak primarily on agenda item 4A to express my opposition to Project Blue. The project's own website sums up its impact saying, quote, 90% of families who participate in Project Blue programs say that they now know they trust one or more police officers, end quote. So there you have it. Project Blue isn't primarily intended to make young people safer or to improve the well-being of youth whose communities have been systematically impoverished and criminalized for generations. Its proudest impact, by its own admission, is to get members of these communities to trust the very people who surveil and threaten and incarcerate and murder their neighbors. This is called counterinsurgency. And to underscore this militaristic approach, I'll also point out that Project Blue is founded and is funded by Crown Robinson Family Philanthropy, whose fortune is built on weapons manufacturing, specifically from investments in General Dynamics, a company complicit in the violence inflicted on immigrants on the US-Mexico border and on the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people, using technologies that are then turned on the very communities that Project Blue pretends to care for. Shame on you for pushing this violent propaganda on our youth. Access to supportive resources shouldn't be tied to folks welcoming cops into their communities, and the city of Los Angeles should provide for the health and safety of every one of these young people through abundantly resourced schools and parks and recreation programs and everything else the people themselves uplift as their needs, with no fucking strings attached.
Sheila Bates?
Why are they going over their 45 minutes? I mean, it's nice, but
So first, public comment should be unlimited, point blank, period. It should not take the audience reminding you of the fact that you are beholden to us, that you represent us, for you actually to do the thing that was right and just and necessary in the first place. Second of all, this order makes no sense. I know Melina's card ended up in before mine, and yet somehow I was called before. I wonder if it's just because you perhaps don't want to hear from her. The fact that we also have to have these meetings in this building, making community come literally into the belly of the beast is sick, but also absolutely on brand. The audacity of any of you to mention the survivors of the fires, when part of the problem is the fact that the LAPD, you all were overfunded, given additional money on an already bloated budget, all while Jim McDonald, this asshole, is getting paid almost $500,000. And LAFD, the fire department, is defunded. And then you have the nerve to sit here and say that you're defunded. And you don't even correct the narrative while crime is down. And yet you go up to the Pacific Palisades and you go up to places where people are ravaged by fires and they've lost everything and they're scared and they don't have the resources that they need. And you show up and you criminalize these people and you arrest them. And you dare to call Black people looters when it has been reported that many of them were trying to leave their homes. They were trying to get their belongings and get their loved ones out and safe. Could you imagine being in that situation and then being called a looter? And let's also remember that calling somebody a looter is also absolutely anti-Black in the first fucking place. Let's not pretend like that's not the situation. And that language was used intentionally. Meanwhile, the fire department was defunded in the midst of an ongoing climate crisis in a city that regularly has fires. It's not like we didn't see this coming. We knew the windstorm was coming. And I know y'all didn't have anything to do with the budget that the mayor put forward. Don't worry, I've got beef with Bass. But y'all submitted consistently for more and more money. Try to make the argument for more and more money, and you accepted $500,000. As was pointed out by the audience and Matios, y'all are a fucking sham. She sat there and she kept saying over and over again, we and us. You're not the fucking police. You're supposed to represent us, not them. Remember that. Remember that. It's been made crystal clear over and over again. Jim McDonald, welcome. We will make your life hell. Mark my words. You will join the likes of Bet and more. Your number of days are limited. They are counted, and we cannot wait until you're gone because we didn't want you here in the first fucking place. In relation to the report regarding...
Thank you. Thank you.
The next speaker, Melina Abdullah.
So I want to start by saying that the report on the murder of a human being near USC by LAPD went unaddressed by the police commission. And you all continue to behave as if you're part of LAPD when you're supposed to be providing oversight. You're supposed to be representing the people. So the question is, what are you here for? Does it boost your ego because you get to do ride-alongs? Are you here to really represent the people? I mean, it's really a rhetorical question because your behavior continues to show that you want to be we with them, not we with us. It's terrible that you don't uplift lives. It's terrible that you continue to rubber stamp budgets that steal money away from what the city needs. The city needs resources as we're ravaged by fire, as we're watching a fire and a catastrophe in another form, in the form of Donald Trump, who is now threatening to do away with things like food stamps and SNAP cards for people, as we're looking at today, people wondering if they'll be able to eat tomorrow. You continue to enable a police department that gobbles up half of the city's resources when we need those resources for fire, we need those resources for food, we need those resources for housing, for mental health. That's what we need. And so are you going to represent the people or are you going to represent the pig, in the words of Fred Hampton, right? Are you the people or are you the pig? I also want to comment on the after action report. It's a farce. The idea that you could oversee an after action report at a USC that called in police on righteous students who were standing up for humanity, standing up for a free Palestine. And Errol Southers, your president, and a VP at USC is the one who actually called in police on them. How truthful could that after action report be? He's saying, I agree with myself. I agree with myself for brutalizing people, for stepping on First Amendment rights, for targeting Muslims and Muslim students, for taking away the accomplishments that they've made, for arresting Black mothers like Nikki O'Cook, for deciding that we will be the face of fascism, just close the gates so that the media doesn't see. So again, I beg the question to all of you, are you the people or are you the pig? Are you the people or are you the pig? The people over and over say, defund LAPD. We know it's not popular, but it's the right thing to do. And we continue to demand a people's budget. The survey is in its 5th year. It's live.
Thank you.
Ernest Moore, please. Ernest Moore.
I'm here today to discuss your policies on a citizen's arrest. A citizen's arrest is a right of all American citizens. I have worked as a professional security guard in LA County off and on for almost 20 years. I have extensive training in powers of arrest. For the past 20 years in Los Angeles, I have had problems with LAPD when I try to make a citizen's arrest. This is a felony crime. For the past year, I have been working with a detective, Manuel Segura, who has an office in this headquarters building. The persons that I am demanding to arrest are involved in my probate case here in Los Angeles. These individuals have committed felony crimes against me, including grand theft, perjury, embezzlement, real estate fraud, and felony elder abuse. I believe Detective Segura is investigating, but as far as I know, no arrests have been made yet. I am asking assistance from this commission for this particular situation, or I will arrest the individuals myself. I have some documents here that I would like for you to see. Can I give these to them? And again, I'm requesting your assistance in this matter.
Thank you.
The final speaker is Adam.
Need a little bit more time than that, Hamid, for a song. But my brain's working. My name's Adam. I'm from Los Angeles Community Action Network's Human and Civil Rights Committee. First off, Dr. Suthers, you called me the man with the green hat. My name is Adam, for future reference, but the reason that you perceived me to be disrupting the meeting is because I was questioning the lieutenant that was sitting in the back row, who refused to identify himself. I was, telling him about Special Order 13, which was passed by this department something like 15, 16 years ago, that requires a sworn officer to give up his name and serial number. Usually that's in the form of a business card. I went through that with him and he wasn't, he just ignored me. And the reason I was asking him, and I will file with next request today, Jim, just to make it official, but I'm going to, pursuant to the California Public Records request, I'm going to request the video or the photos that lieutenant was taking of this crowd right here, and any communications relating to why the fuck he was filming the crowd. Are there not enough cameras in here? Do your senior late officers not have enough body cams on us right now? So anyway, apparently your lieutenants need a training on special orders that have been passed for nearly 2 decades. Regarding the after action report, we know that the LAPD after action reports are fictitious accounts of violent events used to sanitize LAPD's actions and limit the department's liabilities. In this case, LAPD is minimizing the violence enacted against student protesters, condemning the genocide of Palestinians. This report serves a clear and nefarious purpose. They shift blame onto the victims of state violence, justify the department's repression of dissent, and provide a blueprint for escalating and normalize harm against communities. And what this after action report, of course, won't mention is the bias baked into this fucking department. How many decades have you been sharing information, knowledge, training with the state of Israel? How many technologies have this department bought and shared with the state of Israel, who's been committing this genocide in different forms for nearly 8 decades? So fuck your after action report. Have a great day.
There are no other speakers, sir.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We'll now move on to item number 3, consent agenda items.
Okay, leaving the meeting, you guys. Okay, well, that was interesting. I'm sorry you guys didn't get to talk. kind of thankful that I actually got in, even though they called me Mo instead of Mona, but that's okay. I've been called worse. So those that want to jump in, Audit is heading over to City Council, and I see her and Bike Guy are on their way, and go do a room raid with her. Main house, sorry, but we're definitely just going to get going here. Love to you all. I'm going to stop